good morning, and welcome to Let's Talk About It with Brenda Coles. I am so glad that you all are here with me today and my special guest and co-host, Bernadette Lark. I want to just welcome you to Let's Talk About Brenda because this is the first live stream that we're having, and I am excited. Why? Because I want to be able to do more of our live streaming. I think it's very, very, very important, and so I'm just excited. We got a great topic, and our topic today is injustice to. Is going to be injustice and to inspiration. This is a very important topic. I want to start off with talking about courage. I want to start with talking about courage. Why? Because we have a lot of people that are running for office, and unfortunately, in my opinion, they don't have the courage that is needed. I know these people, I watch these people, but we are in a time where we need people with courage. Now, we got people out there with courage. We got a lot of people people that are speaking up that have courage. But our politicians that are running for office that's expecting for us to vote and want to vote, they don't have the courage. Now, I just want to read something before, and first of all, I do apologize. Let me introduce my co-host today. And you all have had her and seen her on the show, on my podcast show before, and she is phenomenal as a grassroots civil rights worker, as long as working with our youth. I'm not going to go into her whole bio because I have actually read her bio on one of our shows, so you just go back and take a look at that. But my co-host today is none other than Bernadette Lark, out of Roanoke, Virginia. She is the founder and executive director for Community Arts Reach. So Bernadette, I certainly want to welcome you into the show today. I do apologize. I am not, let me say this, because we're having a conversation. I am not at all computer savvy, tech savvy, and so when I was pulling everything up, honestly, I couldn't see you. So it sort of threw me off. I was trying to figure out what I was doing. So everybody, please forgive me. So I want to introduce my co-host today. I'm always proud to be in the presence of this sister. I've been out here for 40 years. Bernadette been out here for probably about 16, 17 years, but I just never seen anybody like her. I've said that, and I will continue to say that. But we got to give our flowers right now, all the time. Bernadette, we're gonna jump right into this. But first of all, I want to welcome you. Thank you for being my co-host today.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on Let's Talk About It. Most certainly, it is an honor to serve alongside you for God's glory. I believe that these conversations that we have, they are very much encouraging others and your listeners and those that are watching. We know that it is also enlightening, not just them, but also us, and hopefully giving them that hope that you can still pursue justice despite what it looks like. So just honored to be here with you on today.
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. And now let me jump right into it. Now that I can see you, so because this is a conversation, you're gonna have trial and error. So that is not something that bothers me. But we have trials and errors but the bottom line is this: it's about doing something. It's about getting out information, and it's about empowering you. As I was saying, that we're talking about courage. And talking about our politicians, and there's a lot of them that's running in Virginia this year for office. And what I'm seeing as I do my rounds, talk to people, watch people, I'm looking at that same, especially when it comes to the Democrats. I'm speaking specifically for the Democrats. I know, Bernadette, you work with a nonpartisan organization, with the democracy centers, but the Democracy Center out of Roanoke, Virginia. But I am, I'm talking specifically about the Democrats because I cannot talk about the Republicans, and I would not agree with racism in any form or fashion, and that's what's going on today. But let me talk about the courage of the Democrats that they're gonna must get in order to get the votes. You're gonna have to stop doing that same old politics, and that's all I see. You're keeping your head low. You're not saying anything. You're not speaking up. Let's be very clear about one thing. When those children in Powhatan County, Virginia, was up there at that school board meeting begging for help because they were being discriminated against every single day in that classroom. They were being tormented every single day in that classroom. They could not learn, not one day in their classroom. Not a teacher was doing anything, not a principal, administrator, not the school board, not the superintendent. Nobody were doing anything to help those children. We went into that auditorium to show our support. You had hundreds and hundreds that showed out until they had to move into the auditorium. And those kids literally wanted to commit suicide. Not the governor spoke out, that Glenn Youngkin, that racist. Not the racist attorney general that we have in office as of today. That both of their terms are up, and the attorney general that's running, the Republican attorney general is running again. They did not say one word in defense of these children. Yet, when Donald Trump was convicted, they both spoke out in support of Donald Trump. Yet, we got our Democratic politicians that's running for office right now do not have the courage to stand up for children. And we're going to get into why I'm saying this right now, because this is a part of our show today. And I am just not, that doesn't set well with me as a advocate. Bernadette, I was looking at the definition of courage. Courage is the mental and the moral strength to face danger, fear, or difficulty, often involving the willingness to act despite of fear. Now, let's get started with a prime example of what is going on with your son, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about it right now with Brenda Cole. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so when we talk about having courage, and when we tie it to the topic of today, which is injustice into inspiration. Mm-hmm. When I stood watching my son be physically attacked after only following my instructions to hand over a bag of batteries that he had just purchased with the receipt. I had the courage to know that I needed to document what I was witnessing, even though it was extremely traumatizing. I was smart enough to know I need to document by recording what I am witnessing. And then also having to make a decision. If this man did not stop choking my son, would I just stand there and watch it, or would I be able to intervene in such a way to remove this man's hand from my son's body, especially his neck? Courage. Sometimes, far too often, we judge those moments for someone else that we observe based on your lived experience, and that is not the way we advocate. We advocate based on your lived experience, meaning what you went through, what you saw, what you witnessed, what you observed. Because we're not all with the same lived experience. So with sometimes empathy and sympathy, you really have to get in that other person's shoes, not literally, but figuratively, when they're telling their story. You just have to have listening ears and a heart of compassion to understand their voice. And so I liken that moment of that, reality, because some people are living in this pseudo bubble of make believe where everything is just perfect in this perfect world. And in a moment like what I experienced with my son, there was nothing pre-prep, pre-planned, or perfect about that. In fact, the only thing I could pray came back to my son's memory was what I taught my 3 adult children. Don't you ever, no matter what, fight police physically back, and always show your hands. Because far too often, we see how when you don't show your hands or they claim they could not see your hands, the person end up shot. Look at Alton Sterling. They end up extremely harmed. So I'm grateful to say my son, in the face of being physically attacked, showed a lot of restraint and did what I taught. He had his hands visible and he did not physically fight them back. In fact, you will hear him saying, cuff me, cuff me, cuff me. Instead of just cuffing him as he begged them to do, he ended up being more violently attacked by being choked. I was able to observe this man with the spider web tattoo on the elbow with his whole body weight pushed down on my son's small neck. That took a lot of courage to start recording. Knowing they saw me recording still didn't deter them. So I will say, in the moment that I'm speaking about, I want your listeners to understand how that ended up. I did not have to intervene. I consider that a miracle because Detective Bridges, who you see in the video wearing that green sweatshirt hoodie, he actually physically tapped on that officer to get him to stop what he was doing to my son. Mind you, even when my son was already cuffed now and being stood up by that officer, and I'll give them names because I'll give you the names that I was shared by Roanoke City Police Department. So the officer doing the cuffing is Officer Sneed. The officer doing the choking and roughhousing on my son's neck is Officer Hill. And then their counterpart detective, who's not in police uniform, is Detective Bridges. And they were also there with a female state trooper, Trooper Lazar, that's Lezear, if I'm spelling it right, which had on a gray cap, gray hoodie, and black leggings and sneakers, white sneakers, gray or white sneakers. I'm trying to remember vividly, but all 4 of them were the first to arrive. Of course, Officer Sneed and Hill arrived first, and then Detective Bridges and Trooper Lazar, who was in a regular Toyota car, arrived second. Now, mind you, both of these vehicles were unmarked, black cars. And when we talk about courage and tying it to injustice, into inspiration, you've got to remember, these individuals that are under these attacks, like my son, that it was an unexpected attack, before that happened, it's important to understand, what were they doing? Did they have any dreams, plans, and visions that could now be in jeopardy because of the lack of trust and the trauma? Most certainly. Let's talk a little bit about that. On that very same property where my son was viciously attacked by law enforcement, my son was meeting there with business plans. He started a company years ago called Roller Boys 540 because he loves biking and being outdoors. And so he's always known that in Roanoke and surrounding areas, it is kind of difficult to get equitable treatment when you want to go biking as well on a bike trail. My son can tell you countless times he was stopped for walking with his friends. We know the truth, let alone biking on these bike trails. So my son, Roller Boys 540, it was a dream from that. And he was actually meeting with a young man named Asante Spivey. That's the son of Reverend Kirby Spivey, here, a local pastor here. They've been meeting at Villa Heights talking about creating a big safe space that would allow kind of like the thrill track riding or the indoor gaming. They're both into the engineer tech mind, both brilliant young men around the same age. My son is 24. Can you imagine that happening and then this happening? My son was already in good works. You're talking about a 16-year-old graduated with honors despite a documented hearing loss disability that he was born with, and it did get worse over time. You're talking about a resilient young man that if anybody who knows my son knows you can call on him, and if he can help you, he will. Very few words have to be spoken. He's more of an action-oriented person. Often not a lot of talking, but a lot of good work. That's why you hear the anger in my voice, because I know my son. My son was running an errand to bring back batteries, to bring joy to the children at the school. And so to see him viciously attacked once he stepped out of his car, and by the way, the footage that the police released where you hear something about the car, staying in the car, getting in the car, whatever that was, that is after my son is already out the car. You just watch him back into the parking lot. You said it. You hear them on their own. You're watching him back. So
and I want to say something about that, Bernadette, because let me tell you something. You are right, because I have watched that. I have watched that video, and like I say, I'm hoping that people take one thing that you said: document. Even through you as a mother having to watch your child get choked, thrown down to the ground, and get choked by law enforcement, you still had the wherewithal to pull out your camera and record. That's difficult. But see, I know you. I know the value of, I know what you're going to do and what you know that you have to do. And this is what we got to remind people. Pull that camera out and record, because I've had to do that, and you know what, police officers have literally walked away because they knew they was in the wrong. But let me ask you this question, because I think you said a number of things that is very important here, as when we're talking about courage. Bernadette, what is your actual take on, and who have reached out to you, and that is local, state, local or state, that have seen this video that has went viral, by the way. Let's be very clear. Has went viral, so it's not that they haven't seen it. It's not that they don't know that it's out there. They are running for an office position. I don't care if it's a delegate, a senate, attorney general, lieutenant governor, a governor. I don't care who, but they see this violent act. See, that's who I want to start calling out. See, and I'm glad you called off the officer's name. But let me ask you this, Bernadette. How many have reached out to you regarding this video? I'm talking about those that are running for office, that are seeking office, that have stepped up and had some courage.
Yeah, so this video has been seen over, my recording has been viewed over 8 million, yes, 8 million times and still counting. Only one elected official, and her name is Vivian Sanchez, called me. Now, I want to be clear. I created a formal complaint, so I want to be clear about that in about a minute summary. On the day that, March 18th, which is the day that this happened, 2025, to my son, I spoke with the Professional Standards Unit, which you all need to know is a unit kind of like internal affairs that's supposed to investigate wrongdoing at the hand of police. So in Roanoke, it's called a Professional Standards Unit. On that same day, I spoke with who identified themselves on the phone as Sergeant Vogt or Lieutenant Vogt. And forgive me if I don't know his official title, but I know his last name is V as in Victor, O-L-K. We agreed that I would come in person to the police department and speak with him. I did just that. While at the jail, after leaving the magistrate to check on my son and thinking he had a bond, because I understand process, I went over to meet Lieutenant Vogt. During that face-to-face, my complaint was the obsessive abuse that I witnessed on my son, the choking, the physical attack, trying to describe what I just observed. Not one thing was written down. I was told that they would look into it and I would, hear back. That was it. So I understood the importance of documenting. So what I did was I came home, I jotted down in writing, documentation, all of my memorialized accounts. I then put it to a formal complaint of what concerned me, and I emailed it to Vogue, PSU, the city mayor, which is Joe Cobb. I sent it to everybody whose email I had, city council members such as, Cobbs, Nash. I sent it to Terry McGuire. I sent it to, in some emails I did not have, like Nick Hagan, I didn't have his. And then it's another councilman that I didn't send it to. We don't have a relationship personally. Velosin, and then Vivian. The only one that called my phone to say, I received your complaint and I want to talk about it with you. What do you want to say? Just giving you space to give voice. I even told Delegate Rasul that was my son. And we haven't spoken. So I've told others that I won't name as well. That was my son. These are elected officials. But Vivian did call me. And I appreciated her calling to allow me to give voice and check in on what can be done or give me at least some feedback for process. So I know that was a pretty lengthy answer, but I wanted your listeners to know I did not delay in holding accountability. I immediately documented, I went in person, I tried to follow process and procedure to hold accountability immediately.
Well, what you said about the professional standards unit vote as agreeing, the two of you agreeing to come in, and what was very clear that people need to understand. What she said is he didn't write anything down. Correct, Bernadette? He didn't write nothing down. So he didn't write nothing down. But then they're going to investigate. No, they're not. Because, see, he didn't write anything down. Okay, so if you didn't write anything down, what are you going to do? Because if you have, you're not going to do anything. And see, that's my issue right there. Now, my other issue is Delegate Razul. As we both know, when they are running, they're out there. They're getting people like you to out there to help promote his campaign. So see, and you had one person, one elected official, to contact you when this viral video, you can see it. Her son getting slammed to the ground and choked by police, Roanoke City police. But see, I'm there. I have a someone that contacted me recently on March the 6th, Bernadette. You and I discussed it a little bit. On March 6th, her son was stopped by police. It was a traffic stop. See, and I'm getting to something when I say this, because I'm connected with your son and what is happening right now, Bernadette. I don't know if you agree with it. Okay? I don't know if you agree with it, but I don't have a doubt in my mind. This is my personal opinion. And this is where I'm gravely concerned about us as a black people. This woman contacted me. This mother contacted me. Her son, and I'm not going to go into the details because she too have an attorney, here in Richmond, Virginia, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Colette McKeechin, the Commonwealth Attorney for City of Richmond, is running for her seat, running back for her seat again. See, and I'm gonna talk about courage, and and then courage, and you got courage, and then you got cowards. Okay, but her son was stopped by police, traffic stop. Okay, traffic stop. We're talking about a traffic stop. And the details at this point does not matter. It was a traffic stop by police. He was shot in the city of Richmond 8 times. This happened on March 6th. 8 times. Now, some of the details that I know, I'm not going to go into details about it at this moment. Unarmed. Let me go back. Unarmed. Unarmed man. Traffic stop, unarmed. That's all we need to understand right there. Unarmed. Yes. We don't have to know anything else except the man was unarmed and he got shot 8 times. And you know what? I was so it would hurt my heart so bad. I didn't want to ask her because all you can think about is this man is dead. Now he wasn't dead. They shot him in his, and let me be very clear because I have not seen any video, I definitely, she definitely needs that emotional support that we give, but they did have to reattach his hand. They had to reattach this young man's hand. Reattach it. Now, Bernadette, you know, let's say first and foremost, all police officers are not bad. Okay, I can't say all police officers are bad because I got law enforcement in my family, direct in my family. So I definitely can't say all police officers are bad, and I never would say that. I know police and law enforcement right now, some of the best people in the world. But let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. We got police on the force that are Donald Trump loyalists. They are targeting black people again because they have been given the go. Glenn Youngkin, and let me say this, Glenn Youngkin, this racist governor that we got, he too, as we know, had not just emboldened, and because he follows Donald Trump's agenda as well, and the Attorney General as well, they have emboldened police to go out and do whatever you want. And guess what? The media is not doing a thing. They're not reporting these stories the way they should. They're not giving voice to families. They're taking these stories. I read, I was going through even a couple of the stories that was done in your son's case, and it disgusts me. It disgusts me. And it is no different than a lot of the stories that I'm seeing. But guess what? Some of these stories that you're going to see when they're dealing with white folk is completely different. They want to do these lolly-dot stories. But these white folk stories, I was saying on the news this morning, there was a man from Guatemala, I believe. Don't quote me on that. He I think it was a hit and run. I believe it was some accident, and the person died. It was I don't know if it was a white male or female, but it was up in Glen Allen, all the way up in Glen Allen. Anybody that knows Glen Allen or the Short Pump area of Henrico County, which is, that is gonna be the higher income. I just say the higher income, okay, because you don't have all wealthy people up there. You just got a lot of higher income that can afford it. I've lived up there before, so I know the area because I'm in the West End of Richmond, but I'm very close to Short Pump, but I've actually lived in Short Pump. So Short Pump was a time within the past couple of years or so they didn't even want a city bus going up there. They did not want a city bus going to Short Pump. So, but yet, let me get back to what I'm saying. But this young man, they got him on the news, talking about, he's a criminal. They're going to have him deported, ICE coming in to deport him, send him back to Guatemala. Oh, yes, they run that story like that. But when it comes to us, it's a different story. We cannot trust the media anymore.
Well, I want to, when you were asking me the question and relating it to the horror of what you shared about this unarmed African-American male or black male individual, I couldn't help but to think, and I think it was 1961, what happened to the Freedom Riders. Remember, Governor Patterson likened them as agitators and said that even though them and the FBI was aware of the planned attacks at the hands of the KKK, they were not going to intervene because they're agitators, freedom riders. Remember that, freedom riders. So what do we know Bull Connor do? Local police department. He colluded with the KKK to give them and the attackers about 15 to 20 minutes. You terrorize them, you beat on them, you harm them, and we won't intervene for about 15 to 20 minutes. Can you imagine that type of collusion? This is real, people.
This is real. It's going on now. This is exactly what's happening. And that's Bernadette. That's just it. It's like, I'm gonna tell you something. I don't know if you saw any of this, but I was looking at the news and seeing that across the country yesterday that they had a protest march. They had millions that was marching in the street protesting against what Donald Trump has done. Protesting, millions. But you know what? And then here in Richmond, and I didn't get to protest because I was at work, but I'm always in the fight. I'm always in the march. But let me tell you what I noticed. There was a lot of white people. I saw more of them than I did of us. You know why? Because, see, they were the ones that thought that Donald Trump wasn't going to touch them, wasn't going to touch their loved one, wasn't going to fire them, wasn't going to take their mama Social Security or their Social Security. And then the veterans. I hear veterans say, he can't do nothing to us. Really? All those programs that's been going from the vets, from the VA, that they need desperately, 80,000, I believe 80,000 already people are fired from the VA. Donald Trump told y'all when he was running before, he didn't even want to be in a picture with a disabled vet. Made fun of people with disabilities. He ain't saying nothing. He told y'all every single thing he gonna do. Bernadette, he told them. And Bernadette, let me tell you something. Let me tell you what's funny to me. I want to tell you what's funny to me, Bernadette. People had the nerve to get, I don't know if you heard about this, but Bernadette, people had the nerve to get mad. Last week, Kamala Harris had a speech out in California. And as she was speaking, she just came out and said, I told y'all so. I told you so. She said, I told you so. And she said, I really wasn't going to say that. I really wasn't going to say that. She said, but I can't help it. I told you so. Well, she did. She told you what he was going to do. Hell, he told you what she was going to do. But see, what she said were facts. Let's be clear for those millions that sat on those millions of registered Democrats that sat in your basement, your sofa, your bed, whatever, and decided you weren't going to vote. And you weren't going to vote for Kamala because she's a woman and she's black. Let's be real. But guess what? She gave you facts. She didn't give you fiction. She gave you facts. You believe the lies that Donald Trump told you. He been
And
fooling. Bernadette, he been fooling these fools for decades. I mean, you know, it's okay. But Bernadette, the thing is that it's okay to have a criminal. You know, you had the attorney general of this state, and you had the governor of the state to defend a criminal. A criminal. But then they want to bring ICE in and call everybody else criminals. Really?
and that's and criminalizing, and we all know that criminalizing individuals has been a go-to for racists and people that understand constitutional failures. For example, we talked last week about what James Blake, the bus driver, did to Rosa Parks, and how we know the highest law is supposed to be the Constitution. Well, she wasn't treated equitably. Then why wasn't James Blake arrested for his treatment of Rosa Parks? Instead, James Blake knew that there were no laws more powerful than the corrupt behavior they could depend on.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, that's why he knew when he called the police, it wasn't going to be him that went to jail. It would be the Black African-American female Rosa Parks. Though she did nothing wrong, this woman was arrested. So far too often, we sit in our ignorance and we believe that if a person is criminalized, even when the system is flawed, we still give the benefit of the doubt to government officials, to police, to law enforcement. And like you said, not all are bad or bad actors. Not all are without a moral, ethical compass. But those that are working around the ones that are bad, you're on the inside. Blow the whistle. Speak out. We don't have to know. You know exactly who you're working with that should not be trusted to work with the public because of their biases, their bigotry, their prejudice, their discrimination, their racism. Call them out. You have the power. So when you don't, you're bad too. You're not going to sit and say, well, it's just my job. No, it's your job to follow the law. And the law forbids that type of behavior in public spaces where you're trusted by the public. So your job is to whistleblow. Your job is to get rid of those people that are corrupting your trust and eroding your trust with the public. That goes back to what I was saying about the Freedom Riders. The lead law enforcement, Bull Connor, colluded that he was not going to intervene with the KKK. And here's something that I really want you to consider, all listeners, all over the nation, throughout the world. How is it that one of the most hate-filled, destructive organizations rooted in proud racism, the KKK, how is it that our government has never issued a RICO, has never intruded and made arrests? These people have parades now down the middle of the street. Why is there never any criminalization of such people? I want you to really actually get real. I want you to think about how all these articles are ran about a gang member this and a gang member that, a gang this and a gang did that and a gang did this. What about the KKK? They're a gang, but that gang is made up of judges,
police,
politicians, leaders in city and county official offices.
The president of the United States is 47? 40, whatever his name, whatever he called himself. Yes, all of them.
So what we're wondering now is, since these practices have become now common, why is our current government not breaking up these gangs known as the KKK?
Well, Bernadette, let me say this real quick. We can't expect the current government to break it up because they are the KKK. They are, I mean, it's the bottom line. Let's just be real. These people don't give a damn about black folk or anybody or any other color. I'm not saying black and brown anymore because let me tell you something. Brown people got them in there. Okay, you know, black we got and then the black folk that felt that you weren't gonna vote for Kamala because she's black and she's a woman. You're just ignorant. But I'm just being real. But I'm just saying. What I'm saying is that I'm saying black folk. Black folk. Okay, they don't give a damn about black people. This current government is not going to do anything, Bernadette. So, and that is our problem right now. We're going to have to understand the way this current government operates. This is why they are dismantling and tearing down every single agency. But the problem is, it's not affecting us as much as affecting the poor whites, especially in the rural areas, farmers. Okay, it's not affecting us as much as it's affecting them. And guess what? The people that represent them, they are catching hell. They're catching hell for it right now because their own people. You talking about Kentucky, one of the poorest states in the nation. Mississippi, one of the poorest states in the nation. Okay, but then you have, but guess what? It's filled with like I say, filled with hatred. Filled with hatred. And yeah, Virginia. Hey, let's not leave out our own state. Filled with hatred because we got a leadership with Glenn Youngkin and your ass or whatever his name is. That's why I just say our current Attorney General because I don't pronounce his name. And they are filled with hatred. Hatred. And then he running again. And then, like I say, and then we got Winsome Sears, the lieutenant governor, the Republican from Jamaica, lived in New York by way of Virginia. Okay? Through the military, I believe. Because I do know she served in the military. So she may be in Virginia by way of the military. I believe. I'm not sure. But she in Virginia. She now the Attorney General Republican. A MAGA. She's not, I'm going to be honest with you. She had fell into the MAGAs, I believe. I don't believe that she was originally a MAGA, but now she is. She don't have a choice. Either you are or you're not. See, they're going to make you pick a side. See, now what is happening is they're making us pick a side. And I'm always going to be black. So I'm always going to pick my black side. You're going to bet your bottom dollar on that. And so, but what I wanted to say about, just real quickly about that, is that this woman is running for governor. Lieutenant governor, I mean, the lieutenant governor now is running for governor. She's a Republican black woman. And all she's doing now, and what I don't appreciate, is she's going on black at HBCUs, which they do not support, and taking all the funding from. And then they are sending their people on HBCUs with these young people that really don't know a lot about politics, don't know who's in office, and getting them to sign for her to get into office. I don't appreciate that part. Yeah, that part. So I already know she's been on Virginia State University because my son was approached. But because he is politically savvy, he already knew what the deal is. And no, he wasn't going to sign a petition for Winsome Sears. But see, this must stop. This is the stuff must stop. But Bernadette, I wanna because before our time get run out, let me tell you something. Me and you, we already know what is happening in our, not just in our state, in our nation, but in our world. And we're not going to be the same anymore. But one thing I do want to move on. I want to move on from a little bit from that, but it's still sticking with the politics part of our politicians. I want to talk about the case of the Stokes case when Mindy Tiller died.
Yes. So,
and I want to talk about that. Let's talk a little bit about that because this particular case, people need to really understand. Like you said something in the beginning, and this is what I want to add to this before you start on that. Everybody come from a different place. When you have a man that's been grieving over the death of his daughter, and then his grandchild gets stolen, we got to understand the mind space of where this family is. He was law enforcement, retired.
Yes, he was.
And guess what? There are going to be people that don't like law enforcement people. They within the law enforcement. But let's remember one thing about police. It was not designed for us. It was not designed to protect us. We got to understand that part. That's not what police is about. That's why you got so many. That's why you got so many people in police, that's in the police departments today, that are targeting black folk. And I'm just staying with black folk. That are targeting black folk. But let's get to the Stokes case, because I said that only because I know that with Mr. Stokes being in the law enforcement for so long, and there are people that's not going to like him. Even people that, since he's retired for the number of years that he's dedicated to himself to protect and serve, you got people right now within this law enforcement space that still don't like him. So I say that for a reason. But let's remember one thing. We're talking about a child. Let's forget about the fact that you got somebody that don't like this man or what he say or how he deliver or how he come to you because his daughter is dead and should not be dead.
Yeah, so
okay, let's go ahead with that, Bernie.
So it kind of ties into what we were just talking about when it comes to asking questions of the people we elect, the why. Like I was saying rhetorically, when I was saying why has the KKK been seen as this vicious gang, one of the longest lasting vicious, hateful gangs. You talk about government collusion, like we talked about the Freedom Riders being allowed to be beat on and attacked for 15 minutes before the government intervened, and the FBI and local government knew about it and did nothing. And even the President Kennedy was slow to respond because he knew the temperature of the current climate. Same thing with this. Mr. Stokes trusted, it echoes again, he trusted the processes of the system. In this case, just to give a little backstory, Mr. Stokes had asked that the Community Services Board provide assistance for his daughter for depression because she had been in a fight. That's it. There had been no other known problems of any of sort with his daughter other than she was fighting. This is an honor student, straight A student, wonderful individual, got in a fight, and he trusted the system to help navigate her to a healing process. So that is how the next part of the story opens up that I want your listeners to be aware. So because this family trusted Community Services Board for his daughter going through some depression and things of that sort, that is how they've met the referral of Tanisha Bailey. So Bailey, the licensed counselor that was supposed to be helping Mindy Tiller. Let's just move forward to say that Mindy Tiller had an infant son. And when Mindy Tiller had an infant son, you all need to know that Tanisha, I'm sorry, when my phone rings, it does interrupt my call. You all need to know that when Tanisha Bailey traveled to North Carolina, meaning she left the state of Virginia to go to, and I'll leave it that way, Mindy Tiller and her infant. Within mere hours of witnesses seeing her with Tiller, Bailey seen with Tiller, she was found dead in or around Greensville County, Virginia. And within mere hours of her being found dead, Bailey was at the J&D court. Yes, this counselor, that same one, was at the J&D court requesting custody of her client's baby. So it's impossible to provide care for your client while wanting to become the mother or guardian of your baby. Impossible. You have to care about the well-being of your client getting better to be there as a mom for the baby. If that's not bad enough, this counselor was a part of a very recent DSS process before, of course, Tiller died, where she was signed in as the in-home counselor, a counselor for Tiller, when they took Tiller's older son and gave to the grandmother. So now Bailey is aware that when DSS is involved, family is where they place the children. So that's called circumventing the system. When you take an infant that belongs to another family and you go before J&D court to ask for custody, when you just pick the child up from another state, that's intentional deception. That's circumventing the system. And now Mindy Tiller's sons are not together. And now Mindy Tiller's sons need to be united. And Mindy Tiller's family needs justice. I know I said a lot, so I'm going to give a simple summary of that story. Here you have a counselor that was trusted to work with Tiller as a client. Tiller had 2 sons. Bailey, the counselor, was a part of a process where Tiller lost one of the sons when custody was placed with grandmother. When Bailey leaves her licensed state of practice, Virginia, she goes to North Carolina and brings Tiller back to Virginia, only for Tiller to be found dead. And let's say that wasn't enough, but you take your client's infant and you know the mom is now dead, and you go before the court and you claim the child was living with you and you seek custody. Shame, shame, shame. This is a failure on so many levels. For those of you that don't quite get it, let me go there. That would be like you having a relationship with a doctor or a nurse that you trust. And God forbid something happens to you, you would never expect that treating caretaker, care provider to remove your child and keep custody. We got to do better, Virginia. We've got to do better.
And you know, I have the former guardian ad litem, Sarah Link, and down in Emporia. I have sat in a meeting with her, and I have even said to her, and this is just the bottom line. And she's now is in a new position. She was a former guardian ad litem, so that means that you and my former work and dealing with guardian ad litems, that means that you have been a part somehow of what is going on. You got knowledge of it. And I said to her, does this bother you that those children those boys are they can't even see each other in school? Mindy Tiller's oldest son can't even see his brother in school. And they go to the same school. In elementary school, these kids can't see each other. And I asked her, don't you see that there's something wrong with this? And her response to me, and this is just real, and I can prove it's real. And she said, well, I wasn't intended for this to happen. Well, guess what? Like I say, I can prove that she said it. I was there. I got proof that she said it.
Well, you should know her.
So the bottom line is this. Now you are the assistant Commonwealth attorney for that county. and you're sitting in a meeting, you're still putting yourself in a position. And so now there's a conflict of interest. Okay, there's clearly a conflict of interest here. So now you the assistant Commonwealth attorney and you was a former guardian ad litem. But then she said, "Well, I'm going to write up because they did see crime, and she was going to write a letter to the Attorney General's office because there was definitely crime that she and the Commonwealth attorney saw." But guess what? The letter never, to my knowledge, I can't say, but to my knowledge, I don't think the letter was ever sent up or the information was ever sent up to the Attorney General's office, because if that was the case, then this woman something would have been done. But Bernadette, I think I've been made aware, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, that it's now been moved out of that county because of the conflict of interest, since it was brought to their attention of the conflict of interest.
Yeah, during a past recent face-to-face meeting where Sarah Link, where Sarah Link Nichols and the sheriff were a part of, we were informed that because of the conflict, it would have to move to another jurisdiction, not just for the handling of prosecution and charges, but for investigation as well, because of the people being involved. So short answer, yes, that is correct.
Okay, so let me say that we can give it a few minutes left, and I definitely want to go to one topic before we leave. And it's my understanding it's been moved to Henrico County, here where I live, which the Commonwealth attorney is Shannon Taylor. Is that correct?
For some reason, your volume went down. Can you give me a second? Let me
I said we only got because we only got a couple minutes left. So it's my understanding that because of the conflict of interest, it has been moved out of the county to come to Henrico County, here where I live, and the Commonwealth attorney is Shannon Taylor. Is that correct?
From my understanding, according to what I was informed, it has been handed over to a different jurisdiction, which is Shannon Taylor's Commonwealth jurisdiction.
Well, I know Shannon very well. I think Shannon is a great Commonwealth attorney. She is running for Attorney General for the state. I think that Shannon Taylor should be elected into that position because of what I have seen out of Shannon. So what I am certainly hoping, because I don't have all information, but what I'm certainly hoping is that courage that we talked about in the beginning is going to rise to make sure that this family gets what they deserve. Let me leave it at that. Okay, because we got a lot more to talk about with that. We'll find out. We'll see what's going on. Because the Commonwealth attorney have a lot of position, a lot of power. We got to remember that police, state police, the police association, they are mad because they vote for Donald Trump. They're not going to try to help black families. So guess what? You're going to have some courage. So before we end, Bernadette, I know we was talking about, I want you to sort of bring me back down, because when they talk about our kids being taken out like that, no. Bernadette, go ahead. Well, I know we was talking about a segment.
Yeah, so we were talking about injustice and the inspiration. And this would be, as you said, we just need a decent individual that's not afraid of the system to do what is ethical, moral, and right. Okay. Restore justice. Yeah. And I, too, honor the work of any individual. And I will vote for any individual that I believe is going to do just that. Yes. And like you say, stay tuned. We will see who is courageous in the face of injustice. I want to turn this moment to a spotlight moment of literacy. I understand that there is an author of a local children's book that we want to highlight right now before we wrap up. And I'll turn it over to you, Ms. Coles, to introduce that.
Okay, before we go, I want to start highlighting a moment of literacy before we end. This is a book called School Clothes. It's not actually a children's book, but it's a very special book. It's called School Clothes. All of us can identify when it comes to school clothes and, and what people are wearing and what, especially kids, they want certain things. And when parents can't afford it. So this is what this book is about, and how you sometimes have to go to school looking. And so, but kids today are really scrutinized. So this is a great book. It is by a local North Carolina author that I know. Her name is Linda Carlisle Clark. And that's, and go to her facebook.com/books by Linda Carlisle. And that's CARLY, S as in Sam, LE, Clark with an E. And go to facebook.com/books by Linda Clark, Instagram at books by Linda Clark, Carlisle Clark, YouTube, books by Linda Carlisle Clark. So definitely get school clothes. I want to highlight your books. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna highlight your books. I want local authors. We're gonna bring on different people that are doing local great things, especially when it comes to arts. So please get the book. So I want to thank everybody for joining us on Let's Talk About with Brenda Coles. I hope my segment haven't ended. It's actually only in an hour, so we got so much to talk about. But Bernadette, thank you for always coming on. And we're gonna do more live stuff. We definitely got a lot of people that want to do live, so I'm definitely going to be doing that. We may have to change the time and accommodate everybody on the live. But anyway, thank you, get everybody. Thank you for joining. Let's talk about Bernadette. I want to thank you. Thank you, sister. Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and on next Sunday, join me with Let's Talk About It with Brenda Coles.
Recording stop.